It's about the role of press in a democratic society. There's a reason why our profession is the only one explicitly protected by the U.S. Constitution, because we're supposed to be the check and balance on power. Yes, we are supposed to be there to observe, to watch, to witness. I went to the police chief's news conference this morning, Harrington, and I asked him about that. And I said, how are we supposed to operate in this kind of climate? And he said, you can embed yourselves in the police department. You know, the new model of reporters embedded in the front lines of troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, in order to be protected, in order not to have your camera broken or your face bloodied, you have to be embedded in the police department. That is not independent journalism. When you force the press to close their eyes, to close their ears, as you do when you arrest them, that is a threat to a democratic society. One of our producers was in the hospital. But there are overwhelmingly peaceful demonstrations that they are moving in on, that they are exacerbating, provoking crowds, obstructing a peace officer, right? That's what they're called. Not police, but peace officers.
And I saw it on tape, by the way.
And that's what they should be. They should be peace officers. You can resolve these things peacefully overall. But to move in when you've got, you know, let's face it, they got tens of millions of dollars in federal money. And once you get the gear, you got to use the gear. They've got taser guns. They've got...
Well, you know, Amy, I saw the tape of you getting arrested, and that guy did not look like a peace officer. And what were your producers doing there?
Well, overwhelmingly peaceful protests. The march from, you know, you had the backdrop was the dome of the Capitol here in St. Paul. And we covered that all morning. And then they went back to work at our offices, and they heard a commotion outside in the late afternoon, around 3, 4. And so Sharifa Bokadous and Nicole Salazar went down with the video camera, happened to be right near our offices at Jackson and 7th, and they saw the riot police on horseback, and they saw protesters. So they were covering this, and the police pushed the protesters into this parking lot. They were covering this. They were just videoing it. And suddenly the police move in and kind of pincer motion from all directions. And they were saying move back, which is exactly what Nicole was doing, but it was a parking lot, so she was trapped by the cars, and so she was shouting as the police were moving in, riot police, press, showing her press credential. We all wear our press credentials. Showing her press credentials, and of course she had her camera. They pushed her to the ground. They said face in the ground, so she's on her stomach. They've got either a boot or a knee, she couldn't determine, between her shoulder blades, and another cop is pulling her leg, but she's got to keep her face in the ground, so it bloodies her face.
Wow.
So she's being arrested. They're handcuffing her, these hard plastic handcuffs that just dig into your wrist. Sharif was right next to her, and he's saying, guys, stop, calm down. She's a reporter. You can see she's a reporter. They throw him up against the wall. They bloody his arm. They push him down. They kick him in the chest twice and in the back, and he's got the wounds around him. They really tightly handcuff him. I am interviewing the Alaska delegates on the floor of, it's the first night of the Republican convention, and I'm spending the night, I think I'm going to spend the evening interviewing people there. I go over to the Minnesota delegation, I get a call from a producer, and they say, Sharif and Nicole are down, they've been arrested, they're bloodied, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I said, what are you talking about? I ran from the convention center. I even stopped a cop who was driving. I said, help me, can I get in your car and we'll drive to the site? I got to get my reporters out of there. There must be some mistake. But anyway, no one picked me up, so I raced there with my videographer who was with me on the floor of the convention, and I see this line of riot police. They've completely contained the place, the parking lot. I go up to the police, and I asked to speak to their commanding officer. I said, you've got 2 of our producers in there. They need to be released. My convention credentials are very clear, as is my Democracy Now! ID. I just come from the floor, and I was wearing a jacket and all these in plain sight, hanging them around my neck. They saw exactly who I was, and they just grabbed me. They pulled me through the line. They forcibly pulled back my arms, put on these very tight, rigid plastic handcuffs. They forced me to a wall, pushed me down. I said, I demand to see my 2 reporters. I must see Nicole and Sharif. I see Sharif across the way, handcuffed with his ID in plain sight. I cannot find Nicole. I hear she has a bloody nose. I say it to the cops. I say, I understand she has a bloody nose. He says, so what? He said, I've been knifed in my life. I said, well, that's terrible, actually, but that's not because of us. This is because of you guys. I need to see my reporter. I need to know that she's okay. And she needs to be freed. We're allowed to do our work here, and we must do it unfettered.